Welcome to a new fire video. This time we are going to show you a complete turn of the game. For the occasion, we have prepared this scenario where John's US Rangers, whose skills are veteran professionals, will face some insurgents from Mike, who are green militiamen. Let's pretend that we have already played several turns. In this case, we are going to start our third turn, so the initiative marker is between 4 and 5. The beginning of a turn will start with a calculation of each faction's common points. John has lost several soldiers during the previous turns, but still keeps his sergeant and one of his corporals. To calculate the common points, we're going to take into account their training value, which is professional. So he's going to start with 6 common points. We add 2 more for the alive sergeant and 1 more for the alive corporal. So he has a total of 9 common points to spend this turn. Mike has also suffered some casualties, but still has his leader. To calculate his common points, we will take into account that he is a militiaman, so he will start with 5 common points. We will add 2 more because his leader is alive, having a total of 7 common points. Once the common points have been calculated, we can begin with the first combat scene. To do this, we will roll a die and see which of the 2 players has initiative. Either John, who has that side of the initiative table, or Mike, who has all these sides for himself. The result is a 9. Therefore, it is Mike's turn, so we will move the marker 1 position towards him. Mike has won the initiative and is going to begin giving the orders in this combat scene. Mike's main command orders this group of foe miniatures to advance and take cover on that wall. To do this, we're going to mark the final destination of Mike's troops with this marker. Since John's soldiers have no line of sight with Mike's soldiers anywhere during their movement, John cannot declare reactions to this action. Therefore, we resolve this action of movement. Mike's soldiers will move 20 centimeters towards a token that we have marked as the end of their movement. This action will cost Mike 2 common points. We also mark with an activation marker to remember that these troops have also received an order during this turn. We start a new combat scene by rolling on the initiative table. A 1. It is John's turn. We will move the marker towards its end of the initiative table. John has won the initiative and gives a group order to 3 of his miniatures to move around the house. The models he's going to move are the sergeant, the light machine gun, and one of the soldiers with an assault rifle. John marks the final point where he wants his miniatures to arrive, and to do so, he will spend 2 common points. Mike is not going to react, because he also does not have line of sight with John's miniatures at any time during his movement. That's why John will make his movement without getting into any troubles. We will give an activation marker because these troops have just already moved. We start another combat scene by rolling the initiative table. Mike has the initiative in this combat scene and is going to give the action. Their leader will give a group order to these 3 miniatures to move up to here and, if they have line of sight with John's miniatures, shoot them. Therefore, it will be a move and shoot order. John decides to react with his troops and shoot back at Mike's soldiers. We're going to calculate the common points that each one will spend. As it is a group order, Mike will spend 2 common points to have his troops move and shoot. John will have to spend 3 common points since his group has already acted in the previous combat scene and has an activation marker. Therefore, he will remove 3 command point markers from his command point pool. Let's solve the combat scene. As Mike has won the initiative, he will roll 3 dice and keep the lowest result. A 10, a 5, and a 7. He will keep the 5. John rolls 2 dice and gets a 1 and a 1. John has won the initiative and therefore his order will be executed before Mike's. But for this, first we have to make Mike's move so that he appears around the corner and they can have line of sight on them. Mike will move 10 centimeters from his move and shoot order. Because of that, he will only be able to move up to 10 centimeters. Now we will calculate if John has line of sight with Mike's soldiers. So yes, at least the first and second soldiers have line of sight with Mike's soldiers. Therefore, John's soldiers shoot. John has an LMG and a soldier with an assault rifle. The LMG has a rate of fire of 4, so we will roll 4 dice. And the assault rifle has a rate of fire of 3, which we will roll 3 dice. Both weapons are at short range because they are at half their maximum range. And also both weapons have casualty stress values of 4 or 7. We have to modify these values by -1 because Mike's soldiers are on the move. By another -1 because they were out of sight at the beginning of the combat scene, and with a +1 because of the combat experience value for green. And that grants a +1 modifier to the casualty stress roll as well. Therefore, the final casualty stress value of John's roll will be 3 6s. We roll the 4 LMG's dice first. We get a 4, a 5, a 9, and a 10. These are 2 stress values and a jam result. Right now, we roll the 3 dice for John's assault rifle. Also, at values 3 6s, we obtain 2 more stress markers. Therefore, Mike's troops will receive 4 stress markers in total. We distribute the stress markers among Mike's group and give 2 markers to the first soldiers and another 2 markers to the second. John's LMG also receives a stress marker for the jam result. We would now have to resolve Mike's shots at John's soldiers, but since the miniatures that have line of sight with John's soldiers have 2 stress markers, their rate of fire is reduced by 4 points, and their weapon cannot fire. This is where the combat scene would end. At the end of the combat scene, we would place the activation markers. John's troops would go from 1 to 2 activation markers, and Mike's troops would take 1 activation marker. It would start a new combat scene by rolling on the initiative table. In this case, we have a 1, and it would be John's turn. So we will move the marker 1 position toward him. John has won the initiative and is going to place his order. He decides that his group of 3 miniatures is going to move and shoot to reorganize themselves and shoot again at Mike's militiamen. This action will cost 4 points. 2 because it is a group movement, and another 2 because they already have 2 activation markers from previous combat scenes. Mike does not want to react, so this action is executed automatically. John rearranges his miniatures so that they all have line of sight with Mike's miniatures and can take their shots. The LMG has a stress marker which makes it subtract 2 points from its rate of fire, which goes from 4 to 2. Now the casualty stress values of 4 7 are modified by +1 for Mike's green militiamen, by -1 for John's stress marker, and -1 for his movement when he decided to reorganize his miniatures. It all would remain at 3 6s. We roll 2 dice and obtain 1 8 and 1 10. There are no casualty or any stress results, but we have to add 1 stress marker for the result of 10 as the LMG has jammed. After that, we roll 6 dice for the assault rifles, applying the same modifiers, but without the -1 for the stress marker. 4s, 7s. We obtain 3 casualty results and 3 stress results that are distributed among the soldiers in this group, causing 3 casualties to these soldiers. We remove the soldiers and place the casualty markers. At the end of the combat scene, we would add an activation marker to John's troops, going from 2 to 3 activation markers. We would start a new combat scene, but John no longer has command points and the initiative would be automatically passed to Mike. We would move the initiative marker 1 position toward its end. With the 3 command points he had left, Mike's make his leader give an order to his group for it to move on and take positions behind the car. That will cost Mike 3 points, 2 because it is an order given to a group, and 1 more because they already have an activation marker. As John cannot react since he has no command points, this order is executed automatically. The 20 centimeters movement will be now reduced by 5 centimeters because the soldiers are going to jump over the wall. This will mean they would have now a total movement of 15 centimeters, which is enough for them to take cover behind the car. We would execute this move, spend the 3 remaining common points and add an activation marker to these miniatures, changing the 1 for the 2. As both players have run out of command points, the turn ends. To do this, we will remove all the activation markers left on the table. We will keep the stress markers that the miniatures have and we will start a new turn. We will move the turn maker 1 position and calculate the command points of both sides. Mike starts with 5 command points due to his militiaman characteristic and 2 more points because he has his leader still alive. But due to the casualties he has accumulated in the previous turns, we remove an extra command point marker, leaving him only with 6. John has all the command points because he had no casualty. So he will start with 6 command points due to his professional characteristic. 2 because his sergeant is still alive and another 1 for the corporal as well. It makes a total of 9 command points. We will start the turn with a roll on the initiative table. Now, with a result of 9, we'll make Mike's turn. So we move the marker 1 position towards his end. Mike's main command is going to give an order to this group to start being in opportunity fire. We verify that they are at a common distance of 30 centimeters. Because of the entire group is within that common distance, this order will cost 2 command points. We designate an area of 90 degrees, which will be this cone area here. So any miniature that enters this area in the future will be shot by Mike's troops with some advantages. This is an order that cannot be reacted to. So we will start a new combat scene. Before finishing the combat scene, we place an activation marker on Mike's troops. We'll roll now on the initiative table again, and it's a 4. We move the marker 1 box towards its end. John is going to give the order to move and shoot this group so that they move to the cover of this terrain and shoot Mike's troops. To do this, he will spend 2 command points. Since they are going to enter Mike's zone of opportunity fire, we will have to see which of the 2 troops takes their action before the others. Mike will make roll 3 dice because he is on opportunity fire and will take the lowest one. Mike's result is a 5. John will also roll 3 dice because he performed an action and will keep the lowest one, being a 1. Therefore, John will execute his order before Mike's shots. John moves his troops to the positions he has previously indicated by moving 10 centimeters. The sergeant decides to stay behind and continues to maintain the group's coherence. Let's solve John's shooting. John's LMG, since it has 2 stress markers, has its rate of fire reduced by 4 points. That's why it cannot fire in this combat scene. We will resolve shoots from the 2 soldiers with assault rifles. Each one has a rate of fire of 3, so we will shoot 6 dice in total and calculate the casualty stress values of these dice. Let's now resolve John's assault rifle shots. To do this, we designate the target miniature, which will be this soldier. Let's see which of the two shooting soldiers are at short or long range from the target. The maximum range of assault rifles is 70 centimeters. So if we are less than 30 centimeters away, we will be at short range. This soldier is less than 35 centimeters from his target, so he will shoot at short range. But the soldier behind him is further away, so his shot will be considered as long range. The value of 4 sevens for casualty stress will be modified for this soldier in a -1 because he had moved, another -1 because he did not see the objectives before in this combat scene, a -1 because of the cover that the car offers, and a +1 for Mike's militiaman characteristic. So from 4 sevens we will go with 2 5s. We roll 3 dice and get 3 stress results. Now we will roll the 3 dice corresponding to this soldier. Since he is at a long range, it adds an extra -1 to all the modifiers mentioned before, which will make us go with 1s, 4s. We add another stress marker that we will distribute among the miniatures close to the objective. These 3 soldiers must distribute 4 stress markers. So the target of the shots will receive 2. The other 2 soldiers who are in the area of effect of the shots will receive 1 stress marker. Now it's Mike's turn to shoot. This soldier can shoot because he has 2 stress markers. That's why his rate of fire has been reduced to 0. The soldier with the LMG has 1 stress marker, so his rate of fire instead of 4 will be 2, and he will throw 2 dice. This soldier with his stress markers only fires 1 die, and this soldier will fire 3 because he has no stress marker. He will shoot at this soldier and check the ranges. Short, 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 and short range. Therefore, there will be 2, 3, and 6 dice for the shooting, 3 of which go with 4 sevens, modified by -2 from the medium cover, -1 because they did not see the target at the beginning of the combat scene, -1 because they are moving, and -1 for the US Rangers veteran characteristic. The other 3 dice go with an additional -1 for the stress marker. This makes a total of -5 for the soldier without a stress marker and -6 for the other 2 soldiers. The values of 4 sevens are reduced to 0s, 2s, and 0s, 1s respectively. We distribute the 2 stress markers among the miniatures affected by the fire area. We distribute the 2 stress markers among the miniatures affected by the fire area. The target of the shots receive 1, going from 2 markers to 3, and the other miniature keeps the other remaining 1. The combat scene ends. We recover the dice and roll again on the initiative table. We place activation markers on the troops that have participated in this combat scene. Now, a new combat scene begins by rolling on the initiative table. The result of 5 indicates that it is John's turn again. John is going to give an order to eliminate stress markers from his troops. For these, John will spend 3 points, 2 because he's going to give a group order, and 1 more because those troops already have an activation marker. This is an action that Mike cannot react to, so it is resolved automatically. To do this, we will roll 3 dice and will compare them against the training value of the soldiers. John can use his sergeant's training value because he is less than 30 centimeters away. To do this, he has to roll lower than 8. He rolls 3 dice, and any value below 8 will mean that the stress marker can be removed from each miniature. He has obtained 3 successes. He can remove up to 3 markers from each of the miniatures that are no longer without stress markers, and we complete another activation marker, leaving it at 2. We've finished a combat scene by adding an activation marker to the troops that have participated, going from 1 to 2. We would begin a new combat scene by rolling again on the initiative table, rolling a 5. This time it will be Mike's turn. In this combat scene, Mike has gained initiative and is going to give an order with his leader to this group to shoot at John's soldiers again. To do this, we will spend the 4 common points he have left, 2 because it is a group order and 2 more because they have 2 activation markers. John is able to react and decides to return fire with his 4 common points. Both players have now run out of common points to use. Let's solve this action. Mike will throw 3 dice because he is the one who started the action and keeps the lowest one. John rolls 2 dice because he is making a reaction and he will also keep the lowest one. A 2 and a 9. In this case, Mike has obtained a lower result and his action will be executed first. We shoot at John's soldiers again. The LMG will roll 2 dice, this time with a -2 for the medium cover, a -1 for its stress marker, and a -1 for John's soldiers' veteran characteristic. From 4s, 7s, we go to 0s, 3s. In this case, neither of 2 dice produces any effect. This soldier will shoot a die with an additional -1 for his stress marker, and this soldier shoots 3 dice, which is 3 dice at 1's 4s and 1 die at 0's 3s. Which translates into a casualty for the soldier. Therefore, John receives a casualty and the soldiers closer than 5 centimeters receive 1 stress marker. It's John's turn to shoot. The soldier who is at short range will only shoot 1 die, since he has stress marker and will have a -1 for the card cover, a -1 for the stress marker, and a +1 for Mike's soldier's green characteristic, with which it goes 3 6s. And the soldier who doesn't have a stress marker receives an additional 1. Because he is at long range, he will throw 3 dice and he goes on 3 6s. He gets 3 casualties. This soldier of Mike and the 2 next to him will become casualties, and the remaining soldiers receive 2 stress markers for the deaths of nearby friendly foes. We finished the turn because none of the players have command points left. We remove all the activation markers from the miniatures on the game table. The turn has finished, so we would move the turn marker and start a new one. At the end of every new turn, we will perform a morale check. Because more than 70% of the troops on Mike's side have been killed, we will roll 3 dice and compare it with the training value of his leader. In this case, 7. For each die that doesn't pass the check, he will have to eliminate 1 miniature from the game table. We roll 3 dice and there is 1 that doesn't pass. So 1 of the miniatures on the game table will be removed as he has fled. On John's side, he hasn't reached 25% losses yet, so he won't have to perform any morale check. The game would end here, so we can make a small summary of what we have seen. The game finishes here. Now it's time to calculate the victory points. In each scenario, you earn victory points for the objectives you control or the enemy casualties you cause. In this game, Mike's squad has been completely erased from the table, so it is quite likely that John will be the winner of the battle.